Hello guys, today we'll be working on adding a bit more details to our plane. And to do that, I'll select the wing, then underneath them I'll add a loop cut very close to this division over here. Then I want to select these faces, just kind of a row of faces that's not too wide. Then I'll inset them. Here I'll select these two vertices and slide them up just to make it a bit more square and not so angled. And then we're going to delete those faces. And this will allow us to extrude the vertices to kind of create this fin underneath. So I'll select the two extremity vertices, then remove them from the group, scale them to make them a bit thinner, and then we'll extrude them once again at the back. Just like that. I'll move them up to not have them so angled. So here I'll move them just so they're in line with the back vertices, then we'll connect them together, scale those down, make a bit of space just to make sure that we don't have any glitchy geometry. And then we can remove them from the vertex group of the shrink wrapping. Now once you're happy with your shape, you will need to simply add loop cuts to the face we just created and then fill that gap. Here I'll just make them a bit thinner and do a bit of adjustments right before, and then I'll start adding loop cuts to tweak the shape and make sure that we can fill in the sides. Here I'm going to slide them up just to kind of align them on both sides. That way we have cleaner faces. Here I'll make a quad. And I'll slide those to do the same on the other side. And I'll fill everything just like that. Add loop cuts if necessary, if not, then that's fine, you can simply fill in this area. But this is how you can add pretty easy details like this. And off screen I made little dimples underneath the wing at the extremity, as you can see on the blueprints. Not on the screen at the moment, but maybe you'll see them later. I believe you can do them on your own. I tried to use a different technique, but it wasn't very optimal. So just use this technique to create the dimples at the extremities of the wing. If you want, it's not a very big detail. I just thought it was... I spent too much time on them to be able to present them in a video. Like it took 45 minutes to make them, while it should have taken maybe 20. So I felt like it would be a better idea if you did them on your own, offline, and I would just show you the technique with this fin here. So I'm just filling in the sides. I guess we could use a triangle. Of course, whenever it's possible, we should prefer quads. But I'll just add a loop here to kind of tighten that. And this is looking pretty nice. I quite like it. Now let's do some more tweaking, but this time for the little flappers or rudders or whatever you want to call them. So I'll just scale that on the x-axis to make those flat. Then I'll select the faces on the right side and separate them. That way they're separated into two parts, just like on the real plane. Here this one seems to be split in two again, so I'll add a loop at the center and then split that. And I'll just slide them up just to kind of get a little more distance in that panel gap, and then I'm scaling it on the x-axis. Now the optimal way would have been to do that before splitting, that way we don't have to do it twice, but only once. but it's okay, we can't think of everything. Yeah, our plane is getting really cool. So good job if you made it this far into the series. I hope yours is going along quite well. I put the link to the Discord server in the description if you need help, if you have any questions. If you just want tips, then I'll be happy to talk with you and help you there. Here I'm just sliding those apart, just to kind of make them a bit straighter. Now here I think we had this issue. Maybe you don't have that issue. I think it was created when I was making the rudders, the little dimples, and I was hiding loops. So if you don't have issues of kind of weird faces or disconnected parts, don't worry about that. This is might be only a me problem. So skip ahead a few seconds and I'll just fix that on my plane and then I'll join you back. Okay, so I just finished cleaning up a bit my geometry, and now we'll add kind of the same fin that we did on the underside, but this time up above here. So I'll just make sure that if we add a loop here, it doesn't cause any issues at the bottom. And then same principle as we did for the bottom. Select a row of faces, insert them, then we'll slide those two just to make it a bit more squarish and less angled. I'll just make those a bit straighter just for personal enjoyment. Then delete those faces. Perfect. Select those two. I'll connect them together, the extremities, the two extremity edges. And then I'll remove that face from the shrink wrap group. Then I will move it up and then scale it on the y-axis. Then scale it on the x-axis to make the top of the fin thinner. And then add as many loops as you need to match the number that you got on both sides at the bottom. Now here we can adjust the shape just to get closer to the blueprint. And we'll just fill everything, add a loop here to create a quad instead. And now the advantage of this quad is that it will create this kind of loop that will follow the edge of the fin, kind of all the outside perimeter of it. That way, if you want to add loop cuts to tighten it, it's very easy, just add one right below. And yeah, that was pretty quick. Let's continue. Now I want to add more details to the tail of our plane. To do that, I'll select kind of the main body, the fuselage, and then we'll need to duplicate it to kind of create a second base mesh. So I'll do that, I'll duplicate it. Then I will increase the subdivision count to 3. And then for this one, I'll change the shrink wrap target to this one here, to the duplicated. Now don't forget to turn off the solidify for your high poly version, sorry. And then you can put it in the base mesh folder. Now, if you have any issues with yours for now, you may need to increase the subdivision count of your first base mesh, the one of only the fuselage plane. That way you can increase the subdivision to maybe 4 on your tail base mesh, so to speak. If that didn't make sense, don't worry, just ask me the question in Discord or in the comments and I'll be happy to clarify that. So, in edit mode, we'll need to kind of create a new cutout out of this plane, out of this tail, sorry. So I'll add one loop here. Here I'm trying to see if by kind of copying the loop on either side, either by pressing GGF GGE, sorry, we could have a straighter line. But now we'll need to make it manually this time, so no big deal. I'll just select those faces over here. Inset them, don't forget to press B to not have any face at the border. And then we're going to separate selection. Now here, we can tighten that loop. I'll just slide that to kind of have a straighter line. If we had the loop here, let's see how it looks. I'll just slide that one real close. So those two vertices. Then I'll delete this face, just like we did for the traps underneath the plane, just to kind of not have as much geometry running around. And same for this, we can just merge all of those here by sliding them and making sure we have auto merge turned on. Okay, for the bottom, exactly the same principle. So I'll just, maybe don't move those because they kind of create this crease on the tail and we need geometry in this area to have this crease. So don't remove those, instead we'll delete this face here to add the loop right there on the left of the crease. Okay, perfect. Now here, I'll need to straighten the top. Maybe you don't need to, but I'll select all of those, set my pivot point to active element, then SZ0. And then same for this, but make sure to not select, not merge your little triangle by accident. So SZ0. And then I'll do it a second time for the inner row of vertices. And maybe here we can just rotate them instead of skidding them. Here, let's do the same, just slide them up downward, just to kind of get our panel gap back. Now this one can be a bit more uniform, so I'll just slide vertices around until I'm happy with the look. Now this may seem kind of trivial to make sure that your panel gaps are even, but it's actually very important to have some kind of uniformity between them. Wavy panel gaps are a very obvious sign that this is either CGI or kind of not created by an experienced modeler, in my opinion, because the person doesn't seem to have any control over its mesh. And making them straight and making them uniform is a good way to kind of avoid this issue. Now let's move on to the cockpit area to kind of add a bit more details to it. So I'll go in edit mode and then selecting this loop here, I'll move them just here, this one here, then select those two and connect them using J. And this will get us a straight line between those just to create a new panel gap here. So I'll separate that and don't worry about the ugly geometry, we'll fix that. So merge, merge, merge. And here, let's see what we can do. Let's delete that. Let's dissolve this vertex here, just to kind of create this quad. Perfect, much cleaner, much better. Now here, let's see what, maybe turning off weighted normal or just pressing keep sharp. And now I'm assigning everything to the offset group, and then I'll set a slightly positive offset. Maybe this is too big. Maybe something like 1 millimeter or something like that. Just kind of get myself a little bit more, I don't know, interest in that area. Now delete this edge, add the vertex here to kind of be able to fill in this area. Perfect. Now we'll need to add a vertex here and then connect them with J. kind of get rid of this end gun we created right before. Awesome. So here, to fix the kind of normal smoothing issues we had, I'll just slide everything real close. Actually, we had an end gun here. And then add loop cut, JJE, and then F to flip the side if needed, just to add loop cut really close to the panel gap we had and get rid of that normal weirdness that was going on. Now I'll duplicate the window here. And then I'll space everything a bit more evenly just because I want to kind of create a rubber trim all around. So I'll inset the faces here and delete the one in the center. Now we'll need to add a bit more loops just to kind of tighten the corners, make sure that they're very similar to the ones on the outside. That way our rubber trim is of even width around all of the perimeter. And then I'll set my solidified kind of side to 1 instead of -1. That way it's on the outside. And then we'll do the same for this. Duplicate, inset, delete faces at the center, and set your offset to 1 instead of -1. Easy. Okay, now let's add a bit more details to the intake. So I'll just select the inner loop here, extrude it on the y-axis, make sure to remove it from the shrink wrap influence, then Ctrl+ to select this loop here, separate it into a new mesh, and remove everything from the shrink wrap group. Now I just wanted to kind of create this passageway here. That way we can fill in the cap here without adding too much details about the engine and everything like that, and still having quite a realistic look to our model. So here I'll just extrude, scale it down, and then you can just create a big end gun if you want. But let's try grid fill and see what it does. Okay, it's not working, so let's do it manually. So 2 loops at the top, 1 at the bottom to kind of create the easy quads first. 1 here, 1 here, perfect. And now we can just kind of cheese our way through this with creating 2 triangles. Awesome. And yeah, maybe let's make another one here. But I only do this because it's not visible. Like, yeah, using cycles is only going to be black. And if you really want to push this further, I guess you could just add some image texture. I'll add those 2 loops here and then bevel them. And then I'll add a loop in the center and scale it up just a bit to kind of create ribs. And let's mark them sharp and see what it looks like. Now that's just a tiny extra details. If you're making this to kind of preserve geometry, you will be better off doing it using a texture this time, because it's really not worth it if you really think about it. Now for the tip here, we see that there are kind of 2 little holes here and rivets. So to fix that, I'll add a circle, set your number of vertices to something pretty low, like 10, 12, 8, something like this. Maybe even lower if you have a low-end computer, and then we'll just rotate it to kind of match the surface. Add a shrink wrap and select the target to be this here. Now we'll create a vertex group, and this will only be kind of the base of our rivet, and the rest will not be assigned to this group. So I'll remove those, that way I can move them up here, and don't forget to assign the group to your modifier, and assign this loop to it. And now I'll just fill in everything like this. Now, depending on your number of vertices, you may need to fill this differently, but for me, I'll just do it like this, and then we can shade smooth. And now you can see it's very polygonal and low poly, so that's why I will add a subdivision surface modifier, but you don't need to do that if your PC is already crying right now. It's just for me personally, because I can kind of afford this polygonal cost. And then we'll add the mirror modifier and set your mirror object to the mirror plane. Is just the empty object that we had at the center. So here I'll just scale them up. And here I would suggest that you watch some kind of snapping tutorial, because I will try to do it on screen, but it's not gonna work. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the kind of recording curse that makes it so it's not working when I want to. But yeah, it's going to be quicker if you manage to snap them onto the surface instead of kind of setting them manually. But here I'm just trying to find a way to add multiple shrink wrap modifier to kind of create this offset. But if you manage to make snapping work, don't bother with that. Simply add one shrink wrap modifier and you will be fine. Okay, so here I'm duplicating my rivet, and then I'm changing the target to this one here. And I will be using Alt-D instead of Shift-D. And this will create instances. That way, if I need to edit my rivet, it will edit all of them. And it's also much better for performance. Now here I'm just looking at the reference, trying to see what makes sense for the rivet position. Of course, you don't need to be 100% accurate. They're kind of an easy way to add details, and this goes for most kind of vehicles, especially the ones military vehicles, I would say, in sci-fi. Like rivets are always a good way to add little details, and if you do close-up shots, it adds a lot of interest to the shot. So I'm just adding them here and there, and just making sure that they're scaled and spread kind of evenly. Here maybe we can do a bit of retopology. Awesome. So I'll just slide that down and then delete this face here. Add the loop really close over here. Then I think we'll need to delete this edge over here to be able to create this face that would kind of allow us to have a loop that turns around this part and kind of follows the contour of our intake. And then I'll select all of those faces here. I'll add the loop just before. And then I'll select the bottom. And separate that into a new mesh. Then we don't need this loop anymore. And we just need to tighten that corner if we want. Here I'm increasing the bevel width just to kind of make it a bit wider and get rid of these kind of artifacts created by the shrink wrap. So I'll add a loop here, add one there to tighten that corner, and we'll need to do the same thing for the other side. Perfect. Now here we just need to kind of fix this part here. So I'll just separate that into a new mesh. And then we'll need a loop here to bend that upwards. And let's do the same for this here and move that on the y-axis. Let's make the bevel a bit bigger. And now if it's not working, to fix it, changing the bevel width, we may need to just remove them and then add manual loops in that area. And worst case scenario, we can always remove them from the shrink wrap influence. So that's what I'll do here. I'll just remove them like that and move this upward. And then let's move this on the x-axis. So I'll just continue tweaking stuff, making sure that the panel gap width is about the same everywhere. And once that is fixed, I'll kind of put the rest, well not the rest, but a portion of this video in kind of accelerated. It will be in 3x speed. And why am I doing this? It's only because it's stuff that we already did before, but simply in other areas. So basically creating small holes, punching little panel gaps everywhere, adding rivets, and I just think that it will be more enjoyable for you if you don't have to kind of wait for me to explain things, because if you already know how to do that, you can kind of speed up your work on your own. You'll also learn experience a bit faster, I think, simply by kind of resolving any problems that may arise on your own. But of course, if you have any questions or if you need any help, I'll be there just in the Discord or in the comments. And yeah, so I'll see you a bit later in this video. Cheers. Now for a bit more special details. On the nose cone here, we kind of create some indentations here. So make sure that your loops are spaced pretty evenly, and then we'll add a loop really close to the border here, and then delete this row of faces. Now I'll add 2 loops here, 2 loops here. I'm jumping one face in between that I'm not adding loops to, and then I'm adding 2 loops to the other ones. And now for the center one, let's not do anything. So I'll select the face we kind of created in the middle of all of those, and then I'll inset it and make sure to press B. And now I'll deselect the vertices on the left side, then slide the ones on the right side over here, and this will allow us to kind of create a new face like that. Now I'll select the vertices on the left side, and then we'll assign those to the offset group, and we don't have any, so I need to create one. And then we'll need to duplicate our shrink wrap modifier, change the vertex group, set it to outside surface, and set a small distance to something like -1 or -2 millimeters. Now, even if the shrink wrap modifier says outside surface, it's actually the one that works best for both kind of negative and positive offsets. So this looks quite cool. But maybe it's better to do them in kind of a negative offset. I think it makes more sense. And so we'll just fill everything by creating a triangle and quads. Actually more than one triangle, but you get the point. Let's just fill everything, and if everything looks good, it's because of our base mesh. So everything should be fine here. Maybe we can add some more details to them, or at least make them more apparent, by insetting them once again. And make sure the rest of the vertices are not assigned to that group. That way we get very sharp corners and very crisp details. Perfect. Okay, now for the wing. I want to kind of create this, the tape that goes on the wing. I'm not sure if it's actually tape or if it's something else, but I'll just duplicate this loop of vertices here, not the loop, but just enough to have a straight line that will kind of span this way. So we'll create the black lines that we see here. Now there are easier way to do this. We could texture them, just project an image that we created in Photoshop or something. But here I kind of wanted to give it a shot at modeling that. So I extruded the vertices here, and then I'm going to delete the ones on top because I kind of took a bit too much of them. It was a bit too long. And I'll just make sure everything is straight here. And then I'm going to slide that one here to get an angle. Just like that. Then we'll extrude it. And now here, maybe it would be best if we kind of removed our subdivision, because we don't really need it. Let's set it to simple. That way we get sharp corners, but we still get enough geometry for it to wrap onto the wings. Because if we were to try to just remove the subdivision surface, because our wings are curved, maybe we would see some clipping because we are using a shrink wrap modifier and trying to project onto the wing. So here I'm just extruding to create the shape at the top here, at the bottom, sorry. And then I'll select the vertices on the interior and just move them up here. Just try to get even width all across the board. So I will extrude to kind of get the pattern, slide it down over here. and then extrude on the x-axis. Now we could put the blueprint underneath, but I'm just going it by feel and by eye here. And now for when it crosses over the other, we'll have to do a bit of shrink wrap. Here I'll just slide them down to get closer, set the offset to something like 0 or 1. We just want to barely see the tape. Here you may need to add more geometry if you see some clipping. Here I'll extrude it, even though it crosses the other one. Don't worry about it too much for now. Then I'll extrude, slide that one to create a 45-degree angle. Add some geometry here. And now I'll add geometry on both sides. And now they're at the same height, but what I would like to do is kind of offset this face here. So I'll duplicate the shrink wrap modifier. Actually, I'm trying to see if it's a bit too insane to just add a shrink wrap for that. Also, don't forget to press keep sharp on your weighted normals. Now, for now, I'll leave them like this, but we'll get back to them later on. Here, just make sure it's the same width across the whole pattern that we get. Here, just watch out for it to not project itself onto the kind of center tube or whatever. If it causes too much issue, you can change the shrink wrap target to be the fuselage instead of the main base mesh, like we are using now. But the advantage of using the base mesh is that we don't need to kind of split our tape, I'm gonna call it that, each time we see a new panel. Here, let's just play with the offset again. Let's reduce the thickness a bit to make it just super thin. Here you can see that it's starting to wrap onto the central part where it curves, and that's not what we want. So I'll just move it a tiny bit. Now let's see what we get if we get the subdivision back to something like Catmull Clark. And bevel the corners instead. Now here I'll separate that. That way we don't have to add too much geometry to just tighten the corners. We can only split them up and get sharp corners. Here I'll just move it. Here I'll duplicate the shrink wrap, and then I'll set the target to be only the fuselage here. And then I'll create a new group, rename it fuselage or something, just to be clear in your head. And then I'll assign only the extremity vertices, then set that target to be a fuselage and assign it. That way it will kind of stop wrapping itself onto the central part. Now maybe we can do the same here, but we'll just need another vertex group, and this is where I think I may have went a bit too far with the shrink wraps. Like, no one would notice it if you were just to remove the shrink wrap and place them manually. And so this might be a bit abusive, and I'm not sure it's really worth kind of the time investment, however small it is. Yeah. So maybe you can just place them manually. Here I went with the shrink wrap route, but I'm not sure it was worth it. Now here, let's continue splitting them at the corners. So separate selection, that way we don't have to add geometry to tighten them. Awesome. Now don't worry too much about the clipping in solid view. If you see that up close, it's fine. It will be good in rendered mode. Now for these though, we can copy the modifiers of the ones that are following the kind of center line, and that way we can kind of get the additional shrink wrap modifiers. But we're not going to use them for the same mesh. Instead, I want to set them on the wing. That way we can kind of offset them to be just above the tape line of the other one that we're crossing. And now I forgot they were in two meshes. And here is what I mean by I kind of went too far with the shrink wraps. I could have really just moved them up manually and it would have been just fine. It's not a very reflective material anyway, and it's not like we have panel lines or curvature that we want to preserve. So here, do what you want, but I would just place them manually. Alright. Now we still have this issue here that we need to fix. So I'll separate that into a new mesh. And I'll just do a few changes. But I'll just fix that off screen. We don't need to worry too much about that. But I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, just ask in the Discord or comments. It always makes me happy to help you and see your progress with this series. Cheers.